Hi, this is Sherry Andrea, and thank you for listening. If you're looking for me, you can find me at sherryspeaks.com, where you can find 80 plus attunements starting at $2.50 and up. Also, a custom certificate maker. So, in case you need a certificate, maybe you lost yours or never got one. They're beautiful certificates, and they're only $1.75. You just put your information in, it shows you the proof, and if the proof looks okay, you can go ahead, pay for it, and download it on the spot. Just want to also remind you, make sure you like the video. If you haven't subscribed, please help me out and do subscribe. I want to remind everybody of some things, just a couple of quick things. I still sometimes get emails, people asking me about membership. Okay, so that was like, I don't know how long ago. It could have been 7 years ago or more. At one time, my site was set up as like a membership site. So if you became a member, then, everything, you would have access to everything on the site. It's no longer a membership site because of obviously it grew a lot. It went from at that time only having about 5 attunements on it to now having 80 plus attunements. Well, obviously you're not going to get 80 plus attunements for $5. So I just want to let everybody know, in case you have watched one of my other videos where I talk about the membership, no, it's no longer a membership site, but I think that it's even better because one, the manuals pretty much, they are all free to download. So that even gives you the ability to download them even before, you purchase the attunement, so that you can kind of read it and check out what the attunement is all about to see if that's really the attunement you want to do, or to see if it's the attunement is really what you think it is. And the other reason why I think that it's better is because there are so many more attunements now to choose from, and they're still affordable. And basically, since it's set up as course form, it allows you to go at your own pace. Now, what a lot of people like to do is they like to buy like a bulk of them and then complete them at their own pace. So, a lot of times people are buying them in bulk based on what they have an interest in. So like, for example, if they're into right now working with angels, they may buy quite a few of them that have to do with angels or ascended masters or crystals. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so let's get right to it. Okay, this video is, now if you've listened to the last one was basically getting you started. Like, okay, you've awakened, you're working towards developing maybe your psychic abilities, spiritual development, or both. Maybe what it is that you're looking to open up your spiritual abilities, which I would say a lot of people think they're one and the same. In some ways they are, but in some ways they're not, because of the way you come to it. For example, that's kind of how my abilities grew. They grew and further developed out of the spiritual work I was doing. So the more spiritual work I was doing, my abilities were opening up more and more and more, coming more and more to the surface, morphing and growing more. So that's why I used to always refer to my abilities as more spiritual abilities than just thinking of them as metaphysical abilities. Because some people when they hear you say metaphysics, they think it's there. There's no spirituality in it. Like they think, okay, you're either spiritual and religious or you're into metaphysics. They don't really. There's a lot of people that think you can't be both, that it's one or the other, but it's not. Keep in mind, there is no taking God out of things. God is in everything. You can't take God out of something. Therefore, even if you say it's a metaphysical ability, it's still spiritual. And it depends on how you use it, but just because you use it to maybe answer all different types of questions, like for example, if you're using it to answer questions like when is somebody going to be offered a job, when is somebody going to find that next apartment they're looking for, how is somebody going to do in court, when they have to go to court the next time. Even though those aren't questions of a divine nature, but still, the answer that you can get may still be divine, may still be spiritual, because everything a person does is leading them to advancing spiritually. You may think just getting up every day and going to work doesn't have anything to do with your spiritual advancement, but in fact it does. Everything is for a reason, even when you can't yet see it. You may not be able to see it until you get further down the road that it was important and that it was for a reason. Like, for example, I never really understood why I had the jobs I had, why I worked in the industries I worked in, why I was good at certain things. It wasn't until I kind of got on the path and I started, really getting into following my purpose and everything that it made sense to me. Everything that I learned along the way, I needed that. I needed all those things. So anyway, so this video is about what's next, as far as, okay, let's assume you watched my last video and maybe for the last 5 or more days you've been meditating every day, you've been doing chakra work. So you're maybe wondering, okay, well, is that it? Where do I go from here? How do I get from here to developing psychic abilities, either for your own use, to help your own self, or to help others? Okay, well, now this is the part that I get excited about, because this is more of the, let's really start to work with it part. Okay, so now you're ready to actually start using your abilities. And I know you're like, okay, what abilities? I don't have any. Okay, first of all, don't say that. You do, you just haven't fully brought them to the surface yet. You have to uncover them. So now it's time for us to further uncover them. So we've already started the process by kind of prepping ourselves for it. That's kind of how I see it, is that, you started meditating every day, doing that chakra work. So you've been opening up and expanding the chakras. So you've been doing the prep work. You've been raising your vibration. So maybe you've been saying, mantras, decrees, prayers, high vibrating prayers every day for a period of time. So we've done the prep work. So now we need to bring it out. Okay, so every day, and now remember, I mean that. I'm not just when you have time. No. Every day, and it's not a huge commitment because I am not telling you that you've got to spend hours doing this. I literally mean maybe a few minutes here, a few minutes there. Maybe you just finished folding the laundry, and before you go on to whatever else you got to do, take a few minutes. If you're going to sit down and take a break anyway, maybe if you're going to sit down and have a cup of tea, look, okay, sit down and have a cup of tea. Let's do this at the same time. You're going to just, now remember, I want to tell you something, and everything I suggest you do, it's really important that you don't try too hard. Okay, because see, trying too hard defeats the purpose. Trying too hard actually causes the opposite of what you want. The minute you start trying too hard, you're actually not helping yourself to be able to actually, manifest those abilities. So I need you to be relaxed. It even sometimes helps if you're slightly distracted. So it's okay to have some music on in the background. Maybe the TV is on and you can hear it in the background, because it'll help you to be slightly distracted, and that will help you to not focus too hard. Okay, so I need you to start actually trying to use your abilities. For example, let's purposely work on using our clairvoyance. Okay, here's some practice things that I've shared before. Just simply close your eyes. And if you have a favorite store, for example, that you go into a lot of times, for me, it's Home Depot. But I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to go on a little trip to your favorite store. Let's start with getting out of the car. Let's just imagine that that's where you're starting at. You've parked the car. See yourself getting out of the car. And just as you do, see yourself, just as you do when you go, see yourself walking into the store. After you walk in the door, kind of look around. Look around, see it as you remember seeing it, just as it is. Can you see the employees? There's probably, if it's a favorite store, there's probably certain employees that you see there repeatedly all the time that you probably even say hi to. Like for me, that place is like the dollar store. I go to the dollar store so often. I when I see the ladies, they're just like, hey, how you doing? And so can you visualize seeing an employee that you recognize, that you see there all the time? Oh, but who's it going to be that you're going to see? Now, here's the thing. Who did you just visualize? Who did you just see? Now, you probably think you just saw them because you made yourself see them. Okay, so the reason why I'm saying that is because at the same time, while we're doing this practice, you need to work on trust at the same time. You have to be able to trust yourself. You have to be able to trust what you're getting. So even though you may be thinking, okay, well, I saw that employee because that's who I thought of, because I purposely visualized them. But you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I bet you if you got up right now and went to that store, you're going to be surprised when you walk through the door and that is the employee you see. Now, that would be called validation, right? But see, when we do things like this, when we do a practice like that, I do it sometimes. I used to do it to practice before I'd leave home. If I knew I was going to get gas, or a certain store where, the same employees are usually, what I mean? Certain employees work there, so I know all the employees, but I don't know maybe who's going to be there when I go. I used to, before I would get in the car to leave, before I even left the house, I would just close my eyes and I would visualize being inside the store. And I would look behind, like if it's a gas station, I'd look behind the counter and I would just go with, okay, who do I see? Who do I see there? And then I would be very surprised because I would, go in and that's the employee that would be there. Now that's called validation. I mean, you're not always going to be right, but it does help because it helps you, one, develop trust in what you're getting. Because a lot of times people are just like, well, how do I know that what I'm getting is right? You don't. You have to have trust. But this helps you develop it. So now you're going to keep going. You're going to walk around the store, walk down some aisles, so maybe some of the aisles you often walk down. Try to see in detail. Like for me, let's say I walk down the aisle in the paint department, right? So I'm going to be, visualizing it as it is. I'm going to look at those paint cans, see those paint cans. What's the first thing that kind of pops into your vision? For me, when I said that, you know what I saw? Funny. On one of the shelves, I saw, the paint can that has the brand name Behr, Behr. That's what I saw. So, and that my higher self showed me that just as I was getting ready to say, try to see in detail. Don't just like kind of do this visualization like, oh yeah, paint department, I see paint cans. No, ask yourself, but what else? But what else? Be always asking yourself, but what else do I see? What else do I notice? Actually, ask yourself, wait, look up. What do you see? Look down. What do you see? Look down the aisle. What do you see? Who do you see? Always be asking yourself to see more. What else do I see? What else is there? Do I see colors? What colors do I see? What colors are the paint can? Are they all white? See, I question that. So right now, as I'm doing this and I'm visualizing, I'm noticing all the paint cans I'm seeing. They're all white with black writing, the name Behr, black writing. Okay, because see, that may mean something. So if I'm doing a reading and I happen to notice, but wait a minute, I shouldn't be seeing it like that, because I know for a fact not all the paint cans labels are white. So I would question that in a reading. I'd be like, that's interesting. They're all white. Why? Well, and then I would start thinking, what does the color white mean? The color white could mean something new, something pure. And you know what I mean? So, but that's what it means to me. Okay, what does color white mean to you? So at the same time we're doing this, keeping in mind, you're having to develop a translation faculty as you go along, meaning you're having to develop this means that to me as you go along. Like, what does color white mean? What does it mean when you see a balloon? What does it mean when you see, let's say, you see a car? What does it mean if you see a certain type of animal? Like the symbolism. What does that symbol mean to you? Okay, so the color of the paint can, that is a symbol. The color is white, that's a symbol. What does the white symbol mean to me? Okay, is there anything else on the paint can? Because we're trying to see some detail. Because if we're trying to do a reading, we've got to read everything. What else is there? What else do you notice about the paint can? So you see what I'm doing here. I'm going further and further, deeper and deeper. Don't fall into the trap of going, okay, well, that's all I'm getting. No, it's not all you're getting. You're just not asking the right questions. You're just not looking hard. You're not looking hard enough. Because if you were really in reality in the store and you're walking around somebody and they're blind and you're trying to describe to them, what's around. You're trying to describe that aisle to a blind person, right? What are you going to say? You're trying to do it in detail enough so that they can really get the feel of what that aisle looks like, right? So what would you tell them? Look as though you have to explain it to a blind person. What do you see? I can see the handles on the paint can. I can see the lid on the paint can. The paint can's lids are closed. The handles are down. So that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to see more and more detail. Sometimes people want to say, well, I'm not really getting anything else, but it's only because they're not asking the question. They're not, because the question begs the answer, meaning if it's your higher self or your guides or the angels or ascended masters, it's feeding you the information. Well, how are they going to be feeding you the information if you're not telling them what information you want? You think that they know what you want to know? Yeah, in some ways, they know what's probably most relevant, maybe to the question in a reading that was asked, but really, they're not going to think for you. You have to do the thinking so that you know what to ask for more information about. They're not going to do it all for you. That's the thing. I think some people think that when you have psychic abilities, it must be so easy. You don't have anything to do but just sit there, get info, and give it. No, there's more to it than that. You don't exactly have to do the heavy lifting, but you do have to do something. You have to keep that in mind. What part of this is your job? And what part of this is, your higher self's job and the angels, the ascended masters? They're going to feed you the information. But if they don't know what you want to know, then the information they feed you could be very random at best. You could be getting things that aren't going to help you really answer the question very well. Or you could get just one little tidbit. Okay, I'll give you an example. So if I'm doing a reading and somebody says to me, oh, well, what else do you see for me? And I go, oh, okay, I'm seeing you in an airport. And they're like, oh, an airport. Yeah, I'm seeing you in an airport. Now it looks like you're going on a trip. Okay. But are you going to stop there? Now, some people might. They're new to doing psychic readings, and they might stop right there and go, okay, well, that's all I'm getting. No, it's not all you're getting. I need you to look. Okay. You see them in an airport, and I know you're like, okay, well, how do you know it's an airport? I don't know. I can't really explain that to you. When you do this, you will understand, but it's kind of like you're getting two things at the same time. You're seeing something, and then you're getting a strong feeling of what it is. You don't really know it's an airport because it looks like an airport. You know it's an airport because that's just what comes to you, is that you're in an airport. You're looking at the inside of an airport. And you're seeing them. They're in the airport. And you may either see that they're heading towards a gate. You may see that. You may just get the feel that they're like they're leaving to go somewhere versus arriving. You know what I mean? But when you look, I always, whenever I realize that I'm seeing somebody in an airport, you know what the first thing I do is after I realize they're in the airport? I start looking at them. Why? Because how are they dressed? Do they have a suitcase? How many suitcases? How big is it? Is it just a carry-on? Is it a backpack? What size is it? So a lot of times that's how I can tell like how long of a trip this is. Like I'm like, nah, I'm getting this is a short trip. This isn't a long trip. This isn't a full-blown vacation. This looks like it could be something like just, a few days, because I'm being shown the luggage and it's not very big. It looks like it's carry-on, like they're getting ready to get on the plane with it. How are they dressed? That might give you some indication sometimes of where they're going, because your higher self might show you, it's not unusual to be like, I see you in an airport, but it looks like you have a bikini on and swim fins. Okay, this may be giving you an indication of what type of trip this is, where they're going, what they're going to be doing. So don't be surprised if you see something. Normally you would say that's out of the ordinary. You don't expect to see somebody, walking through the airport with swim fins and a bikini on, right? But your higher self may show it to you that way because you're going to read it and you're going to be like, oh, okay. I get the feeling you're going to do some type of snorkeling, scuba diving, something like this. And the person might say to you, oh, wow, how did you know that? How did you know I'm in scuba diving? Psychic. So you get where I'm going here. Now, we're just practicing, okay? This is just you practicing. I'm not saying that you're actually doing a reading right now, but you're practicing. However, just remember, even with practicing and just visualizing being in a certain location and pretending that you're in that location and walking around and looking at things, that does not mean that you are not going to get information that's real and true. Because like I said, you'd be very surprised. And if after you do this, you get up and actually go to that store, you'd be very surprised to notice some things that match up to what you saw, that you just thought you were making up. Okay, so what I've just shown you or gone over with you is a basic visualization technique, a visualization exercise. Now, if we do this every day, we will bring out our clairvoyance more and more and develop it. It's literally that simple. Bring out an ability, how? Use it. Now, of course, we're doing it in a pretend sort of way, right? This is like, when you're a little girl and you've got that Barbie doll house and you got the Barbie dolls and you're pretending that Barbie and Ken are married and, they're going to the beach in Barbie's Corvette, and we are pretending, but this is how we're practicing using the abilities to bring them more and more out to the surface. And remember what I said, developing trust at the same time. Now, okay, so I just went over the technique for the clairvoyance. Okay, now what about the other abilities? That you might be like, well, what about clairaudience? I'm interested in that. Clairaudience manifests in so many different ways. Okay, a song could pop into your head. That is clairaudience. All of a sudden, you know how you're talking to someone and you're like, I can hear my mother say this, you hear somebody say something, you're like, "Ugh, I can imagine my best friend saying this to me about this." Well, that's clairaudience too. Um, Clairaudience sometimes it can be manifesting in a way where you hear a phrase, you hear a word, but it can also manifest in thought form. What I mean by that is thoughts that come to you, thoughts that kind of pop in your head. Maybe it's not that you're hearing somebody say blah 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 blah. It's a whole chunk of a thought, a whole chunk of information is just there in your mind. Okay, so that's clairaudience as well. The best thing for me to say as far as developing clairaudience is you have to get good at paying attention. That's the thing about clairaudience. Clairaudience isn't difficult to develop, but it does require you to pay attention and notice it. It's maybe not as obvious, and it's a little bit more subtle than clairvoyance. So yeah, it does kind of require you to notice it, or to ask yourself the question sometimes, where did that thought I just had, where did that come from? Or you suddenly get the idea to do something, like, oh, you should do this right now. Okay, where'd that come from? It's probably your higher self trying to help you, going, yeah, you should go and do this right now. Maybe your higher self is telling you, you know what, you shouldn't wait until later, you should go to the store now. Often there's a reason why. It's so funny. You know how when let's say you do something, you go out and run a few errands, right? You come back home, you're chilling, you're relaxing, and I go on nextdoor.com, and then I'm seeing what people in the surrounding neighborhoods are saying, and it never fails. Maybe I've been back home for a half an hour, and now I'm seeing on nextdoor.com where somebody's like, oh, does anybody know what happened in this area at the corner of this street and this street? And I'm like thinking, that's interesting. An hour ago, I was there. I was in that area an hour ago. And then you find out something really, really bad happened there. There was a really bad fatal accident. And you're like thinking, wow, I just missed being involved in that. So sometimes clairaudience is that thought you get, the thought that comes into your head, you know what? I shouldn't wait until later to go to the store. Let me go now. Okay, where'd you get that from? That's the question. Ask yourself, where did I get that from? Did that just pop in my head, or is there a reason why I just thought that? Well, why would I think it? Or was it just there? Did it just come to me? And it may have come to you in a specific way. It may have come to you like, oh, you should go now because, it's 2:00 in the afternoon, and wherever won't be crowded, or the roads won't, be a lot of there won't be a lot of traffic on the roads right now. It may be a whole complete thought like that, but hey, where'd you get it from? Right? We have to get to the point where we start believing that it's not just coming from us, that these thoughts aren't just something we are coming up with, that they're coming from somewhere. They're being given to us. Sorry, that's my phone. That they're being given to us. You have to start turning it around and thinking that way. Like if the thought came to you, it came from somewhere. Okay, pay attention to it. Listen to it. Again, in this way, we're developing trust. As far as clairsentience, which is the ability to feel, that one's a little bit easier. The reason why is because often when clairsentience is like empathy. It is based on, the heart chakra being open to the point where not only your empathy works very well, but also you're being able to sense energy, and also energy of everything and anything, whether it's the energy of a person, energy in your environment. That one to me is a little bit easier because it just requires you to, keep doing that chakra work and keep working on continuing to clear and further open up your heart chakra. So to me, that one's a little bit easier. It is about becoming more and more sensitive to energy. Now, if you want to bring it out even more, you can do things like practice flowing energy through you on a daily basis. Practice literally feeling things. Like go outside, hold the leaf of a flower or a fruit tree. Close your eyes. Feel that energy. As you're holding it, that energy is going to be coming into you. Feel it. Sense it. What does it feel like? Ask that question. What does this feel like? How strong is it? Is it soft? Is it harsh? Is it what does it feel like? Practice doing that. I mean, I go outside in the backyard probably, a couple times a day, even when it's hot. You have the opportunity while you're out there to do these things. All plants feel differently and they all have a unique feel. Did you know that? Excuse me. But you might not know that if you don't actually touch them. Feel their energy. If you don't try, you wouldn't know that. But this will help also bring out your clairsentience, and then, bringing it out, and then after that, it's just a matter of getting used to. And I did a video on that, and you can look that up. Just search Sherry Andrea space clairsentience. I did an in-depth video on it and ways to use it and how you can actually use it to communicate. And I gave, examples and everything. So if you really want to learn about clairsentience and what it really actually is, and not the bogus explanations that you found, when you Google, then go and look up that video that I did. Okay, let's see, what else? So clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience we went over. Okay, so there's taste, there's smell. Now these are two abilities that they're not difficult to develop. They usually kind of develop all on their own. You just have them. But they're difficult to read. They're difficult to read, but because when you smell things, sometimes it takes a while to understand what you're smelling and why you're smelling it. It took me a while, but I eventually realized that whenever there was a discarnate spirit or a negative energy or spirit in my environment, that I would smell natural gas. That's what I would always smell, is natural gas. Often it's because it's just a discarded spirit that hasn't crossed over yet. One that I never figured out is when I smell what smells like BO, body odor. That one I never figured out. And I know there's somebody out there, like right now, there's somebody out there that's kind of laughing, like giggling when they hear this. In their mind, they're gonna be like, "You sure it's not you?" I'm like, it's funny though. It's funny, but there's somebody who's gonna listen to this video and that's what they're gonna think, and they're gonna giggle and go, "Are you sure it's not you?" Okay, so that one I never figured out. I never really got into developing, smell, taste. Um, it comes into play sometimes, and sometimes it's useful. Sometimes it's useful if you're doing a mediumship reading. You smell something and then you describe to the person what you're smelling. You're like, oh yeah, because they did this or they did that. So I haven't ever really felt like it's something that you needed to work on. It's just something that when it came up, um, just, describe to the person, tell them what it is you're picking up on, what it is you're smelling, what it is you're tasting. Um, I don't know. I don't really feel it needs to be worked on that in depth, like some of the other abilities, like some of the other clairs. So that is where you're at right now. You are at the point where you need to continue meditating every day, doing your daily chakra work. By now, you shouldn't need to do it with a guided video. By now, you should be able to do it all on your own. Um, and keep raising those vibrations by spending a period of time, um, saying mantras, decrees, or high vibrating prayers. I mean, one of my favorites was, to say the violet flame decree, like I said in the last video, because the violet flame decree is so beneficial. It does so many really good things. Speeds advancement for whatever you're working on in your life, whether it's you're working on spiritual advancement, working on developing those abilities, but it speeds advancement, and I can validate that for you. Absolutely, it does. It also it's very clearing, but not only that, it also will help to negate karma, which the higher you want your vibrations to be, you better drop that karma. You need to negate as much of it as you can, because you don't want to get to the point where you're having trouble reaching higher heights because the karma is weighing you down. Karma's like that backpack full of rocks that you're wearing. Um, the heavier that backpack is, the more difficult it will be to, you know, get your vibrations up as high as you want them. But not only that, but also it affects manifestation. So if you're into the law of attraction, you got too much karma, it's going to be difficult for you to be attracting what you're trying to attract or manifest. So keep that in mind. That's why my go-to for a period of time was the Violet Flame Decree, because I felt like that was what I needed to be definitely working on, was like negating my karma, being as clear as possible, and it's great for helping to raise your vibrations permanently. So that's why that was one that I favored. But I also throughout the day said others. I mean, I always tell people one of my favorite prayers is the Hail Mary prayer. While I'm saying it, I am thinking of the feminine aspect of God is what I'm focused on. And for me, it was getting to know the feminine aspect of God. So in a way, when I would say it, during the time I was, repeatedly saying it, that was me spending time with the feminine aspect of God. You want to spend time at a higher vibration as much as possible. So while I was saying the Hail Mary prayer, that is what I was in fact doing, is spending as much time as possible with God, which means I'm spending that time at a higher vibration. The longer and the more time I spend there, the more the I'm working to permanently get there, if that makes sense. So so that's where you're at. You need to practice now. As far as practicing with actual people, yes, at some point you need to start doing that. And you need to not put it off too long, because normally, and putting it off, it's just a matter of your comfort level. Now, don't be a wuss about this, because this is easy. You go to Facebook and they, find a psychic development group, join a couple, because some will be more active than others. And people will post pictures of themselves and that you can just respond to. You could read their picture. You're not doing full-blown readings if you don't want to. You might just give one piece of information that you picked up, and they will validate it for you. They will tell you whether you're right, whether you're wrong. Like if you say, "Oh, well, I'm seeing that you have 3 children and a husband who is super, super tall." So they're going to validate it for you. They might go, "Okay, you're right about the 3 children. You're wrong about the husband." Maybe he's short. I don't know. So, but they will help to validate it for you. And they will also, everybody is very nice on these, in these psychic development groups. They're very nice and very helpful. Or you can locally find a spiritualist church, and they have development circles. And it doesn't matter even if it's a mediumship development circle. They're still going to help you to learn to use your abilities and bring them out, and they're going to guide you. And the nice thing is there's always somebody there that's kind of like, they're running the group, and they're like the teacher, and they're going to help you figure it all out and bring out those abilities and help you practice them. So, and usually the local psychic development circles aren't expensive. Maybe if you have to pay anything, it might be $5, $10. They may meet once a week, once every couple weeks. If you're looking for one locally, you might want to try meetup.com. To see if there's one in your area. But now is the time for you to be bringing in, actually practicing your abilities, because we got to bring them out more. We got to bring them out and bring them to the surface. So that's where you're at right now, and you should be very excited, very happy to be at this point, because from here, it gets better and better from here. Yeah, I think it becomes, you're at that point where maybe you're at the top of the mountain, and instead of going uphill, now you're going down here. Now the walk, it should be becoming more and more easy. Yeah, I know. You're going to perceive that it's more difficult for a little while. It's really not, but that's how you're going to perceive it, because you're going to go, "Oh, why is this so difficult? Why can't this be easier?" It actually is. We make it hard, for ourselves. We make it hard. But it actually is easy. And once that kind of clicks and you realize that, and you kind of relax into it, then you're going to be like, "Oh, yeah, I was just trying too hard. I just should have relaxed and just did it." So I hope that this was helpful to you. Of course, feel free to comment and share your experiences. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and visit sherryspeaks.com. Check out the attunements, the blog articles. Basically, if everything I talk about, I've written about, and you'll find it in my blog, and a little bit of everything. So if you want to read more in depth about the different clairs, just go to sherryspeaks.com and go to the blog, and you'll see all the different blog posts I've written, all the different abilities, including the one on empathy is in depth, and that one I tell you how to develop and control your empathy, and I use real life examples for myself, from my experience. So check it out. Of course, if you are looking to donate, you can go to sherryspeaks.com/donate. So you can either donate or, buy a few attunements. You know, attunements, they'll help you even when it comes to developing your abilities. Some people will say, I got this attunement or that attunement, and I feel like it opened me up more. It because every time you do get an attunement is very clearing. It opens up your chakras more. So, hey, get a couple of attunements to help yourself, to help you open up more. So, I look forward to next time. I hope you're having a great day and enjoy yourself. And don't forget to go outside and feel those plants. Thank you for listening. Namaste.